Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the latest CarpFix Live. As always, the main purpose of us doing this for you guys is for you to get your questions answered and for us to talk about our upcoming films, our most recent films, and just anything carp fishing related and obviously CarpFix related. So we're going to start with a little chat about our most recent release, which is our film from Berners Hall. Was filmed right at the end of January into the beginning of February, and we're coming out of some pretty nasty weather, really. It had been really cold, and we were sort of, at that time of year when you're trying to create good content, you're obviously you're nervous to aim too high, and you don't want to aim too low. You know, you want to go somewhere where you've got a good chance of catching, but at the same time, you still want to go somewhere where you've got a good chance of a good fish. And Berners is obviously a very good shout for that. A reasonable size reservoir, 20 odd acres, I think, in size, roughly 600, 700 fish inside. And I just had a feeling with the mild weather that was forecast, because it's sort of really exposed to the wind up on the top of a hill, I had a real feeling that wind blowing on the surface with a decent mild temperature would get those fish sort of sniffing around. There's not a lot of weed in Berners in the winter. It's a relatively barren lake bed, and on those sort of types of venues with a good amount of fish, there's always a good chance of action. And with it having been so cold and having not been fishing that great, what that means is you're going to have quiet banks. You know, a lot of people always waiting for the lake to start fishing before they arrive, and it's a very, very busy lake normally, and when I arrived it was literally almost deserted. There was a few people, and I think there was 7 on at the weekend, and I arrived on the Sunday, and they were all packing up, and I think there was only 2 or 3 of us left on when we started, and I was hoping that over the course of 4 nights with the film crew. But the main purpose of me going on the Sunday was to just get my eye in, you know, because it'd been cold. I was nervous. I certainly wasn't certain that we were going to do. Well, it wasn't certain we were going to catch, let alone do very well. So I went on the Sunday, put the rods out into like a central zone that sort of has a bit of winter form, and within the first few hours of getting the rods out, I caught 5. Obviously, that was off camera. Decided to reel in about 9 p.m. And then start again the following morning once the camera guys arrived. And at 5 a.m. I was blown out the ground. A massive wind blew up through the night. Tent just woke up. It's like woof, gone. And if you ever do go,
it blew away, didn't it?
Yeah, blew away. Yeah. So if literally it was gone. But I did manage to locate it, and it wasn't too badly damaged. But tip number 1 for Berners is if you are going there, make sure you've got enough tent pegs, and if you've got extra large ones,
extra long tent
pegs, then it would be highly advisable. But I moved over the other side from there, and from the get go, we were absolutely spoiled. It's a really nice film. Really enjoyed filming it. We caught a rake of big fish, topped by a 40-pound common, 6 good 30s, you know, good like mid-30s, 36, 35, 34 pounders in amongst them. And yeah, just a really nice film. Simple tactics, you know, using the bait boat to keep the disturbance down, also to keep the bait very tight. You know, it's very easy when it's windy, like it was for Spoms, to be depositing bait all over the swim, and the bait boat enabled me to keep everything sort of compact. And fishing maggots, hemp, sweet corn, you know, typical winter go-tos. And yeah, it was absolutely spoiled.
Credit to Ash, who he basically fit. I've got no credit in this film whatsoever because I arrived on the Friday. The Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Left on the Friday. So I arrived on the Thursday, but Ash was there from the Monday. But Ash joined us from those of you who know, or have been a member since we started. He joined after a few months full time, and this is his first video. It's bearing in mind it's an hour and 18 minutes long, an hour and 20 minutes long. He basically did the whole thing.
Yeah.
And a bit of credit for him because he, you know, that's kind of what we've been working up to, getting him going out and making a film like that, and he's smashed it.
Yeah, I'm like I said to you previously, didn't I? I was sort of super impressed that if that's his first attempt, then I'm really interested to see where he's going to end up from there, because he's obviously really talented. But what are we going to obviously get your questions in? Don't forget to be getting your questions in.
Yeah.
Are we going to give anything?
So we got some. A lot of people have been asking for the stickers.
Yeah.
So I managed to get some more done. If you watch our Instagram and Facebook story, you'll see on there there's a couple of new ones. But yeah, we'll give some of those away. So there's 4 stickers. You hold them up. I'll put it a bit closer.
That's pretty cool, isn't it? It's a stand art little.
Yeah, it's not too big, but it's just
It's cool.
Yeah. And then there's the ones that you can just put on the top of your pop-up lids if you want.
So what are we giving?
Yeah, we'll just give
sets of 4.
Sets 4. Yeah,
set of 4.
That's the one that we had before. That one, that's the same as what we had before, but
smaller.
a slightly smaller, because you said you wanted it smaller to go on the side of things, and
Yeah.
The other one was quite big, like a lot bigger. So, we'll go straight for a couple of questions if you want, and then we'll come back to the
we
the
can
community
come back
page.
Yeah.
We'll do it because we've got quite a few already.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you get your questions in, we will give some sticker packs away.
Yeah.
Right.
You sure we're gonna go straight into the questions?
Yeah, we've got a few,
got a few?
because we always have loads left.
Okay.
So we'll just go for a couple, and then we'll see what we get.
Okay.
Let's have a little look. So we've got Timothy Robinson's asked, now the weather is getting warmer and the carp are moving about more, what's the best baiting up method for March through to May?
Okay, I would say March and April are still fairly early to regards to introducing lots of bait. Often my go-to in March and April will be sweet corn, crumbed boilie, maggot, hemp, minimal light baiting, nuisance fish dependent. I often use sweet corn, maggots and hemp when there aren't nuisance fish, but when there are, I tend to use 10mm boilies, just a few 10mm boilies around the rod. But ultimately, at this time of year, a single pop-up in the right place, especially March and April, is one of the best tactics. The fish are starting to move around the lake. They're swimming, using energy, but they're not really getting their heads down and really feeding hard. So, yeah, high visual baits. I'm not telling you anything that you've not heard before, but high visual baits in early spring are lethal. The fish just seem willing to hang themselves on them year on year. But May's a different ball game. I think once you get into May, I really do think that they are ready. In the last few weeks in the run up to spawning, I think they're ready to eat in that, especially the big females and that. I think you can. I always think that once you get into May, that's the time to start putting a bit of gear around your rods and sort of setting your stall out a little bit more. I tend to fish very opportunistically in March and April, and then as we get into May, start putting a bit more feed.
May's when we went to Wazing, yeah?
Yeah.
That's when, because you move away from those high V's pop-ups to, you were using balanced tigers, weren't you?
Yes.
So you move from the high visual to something that...
Yeah, I obviously wasn't fishing a lot of bait at Wazing because we were only fishing for a very low stock of carp. That was a real fishing, just minimal traps in that situation. But for example, I certainly wouldn't be fishing over 20 spoms really in March and April. Tend not to, but I would be pretty comfy on a well-stocked venue putting 20 spoms out on in May. I remember fishing at Essex Manor over pop-ups in the edge and putting like a kilo of boilies around it, which is something that I'd rarely do. But in May, I think they're hungry.
They're having it.
They're hungry.
Yeah. Ivor has asked, Daryl, have you used the new mainline fish meal boilie? And if so, what do you think of it?
I haven't. I've used it once. It's very different.
What, is it out? Is it?
No.
Oh,
it's
right.
It's like a. I know Dan's been sort of using it quite a lot, and a few of the other guys.
Oh, he's used it for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, the dark one, the really dark one. It's almost black in colour. I think I'm led to believe that it's quite a squiddy sort of smelling one. I don't really know what squid smells like, but it's
fishy.
Yeah, it's quite strong fishy. It's quite soft. and it turns quite quickly, as in that it goes off quite quickly, which are all things that I like. A soft bait, something that really starts to get sweaty and sticky quickly because it's obviously highly active and working. So yeah, I haven't used it a lot because I tend to use what they've got available, for marketing purposes. But yeah, from all accounts, it's a pretty good bait, that Numa.
Yeah. Josh has asked, have you got any tips on how to stop poaching anglers? Had a guy watch me spot the other day, and now I see that he's been catching fish on my spots. I'd say go and fish a syndicate where it's a bit more civilised, probably.
No, it's not civilised.
No,
it's not. It's not civilised in the UK whatsoever. It's
I'm wrong.
It's very, very dog eat.
Go on then. What do you do?
If you are trying to hide stuff, then the only rule number one is don't tell anyone, because if you tell someone, they tell someone. That you can never know if it's a real secret if you've told anyone. So the only way for a secret to remain a secret is to never tell anybody. And yeah, you can be evasive, as in like not answer all questions exactly and accurately, especially if you're talking wraps. It's just too easy. It's too easy for people to jump straight on the spots if you are trying to avoid that. So yeah, don't mention wraps.
Yeah, if someone sees you cast onto a spot, then there's not a lot you can do about that.
Yeah, but if you're fishing at 18 wraps, you can tell them at 17. And then they're not on the spot, are they?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's multiple times when I've been in a situation where I've had someone come into my swim where they intentionally come round to see where I'm going to recast. But they know I've been having a few from a swim, or in another situation. I've just had one when people, they linger around with the intention of seeing where you recast so that they can do it when they get the chance. So yeah, just if you've got the time, wait them out. And if you want to be really, really, really sort of to the point, if you're giving them 5 minutes chat and you think you'd like them to leave, then you just politely ask. You just say, "Excuse me, I'm not really comfortable casting out with you in my swim. Come back when I'm finished." And which is fair enough in my opinion.
Yeah. Lucy Grubber has asked, "What's your opinion on using wafter on a chod rig?"
I have. I have used potted wafters on chod rigs. Definitely used balanced tigers on chod rigs and caught really, really well. But having chucked it, I chuck it in the edge sometimes to look at how your rig sits. And sometimes I've found that the main line, so the chod section lies on the bottom, and then the main line runs across the top of the rig, and it just doesn't look right. Whether it prevents it working or not, I would say it probably doesn't, because like I say, I've caught a lot of fish doing so. But yeah, I do. If I was going to do it, I'd probably do it with a foam nugget so that the line gets to the bottom first, and then the nugget comes off and it sort of falls away. But even still, it can still land on top of the line. It doesn't always.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit pretty every time, but it definitely works.
Yeah. Unholy has asked, "Evening all, what rigs would you say is best for summer carp fishing?"
Yeah, the time of year is, I would say, not really that important. It's more to do with the situation, So your rig should suit the bait that you're using, and it should suit that. It should present well over the lake bed that you're fishing over. So the time of year really doesn't really come into it.
Okay, cool. So let's have a little look. Let me get onto this other page.
Okay, we haven't given away any stickers yet.
No, but we're going to give away a £50 Johnson Ross voucher.
What now?
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll do it now.
Hello.
So on the community page, do you want to talk about the community page?
Yes. Okay. So the community page.
I've got it up on here. So
is a new feature that we've had. It's not been up too long on the CarpFix app. Lots of you have been uploading your cat shots to it, which we are very thankful for. We're hoping that we can get sort of some more recent captures. Seems to be a lot of people posting sort of quite old pictures, which is fine. But we want to see up to date new pictures for the time of year. So like to help encourage other people to getting out there doing it. So yeah, if you've got any recent cat shots, keep them coming in.
Look at that one. £79 5-ounce public lake mirror.
79.
Yeah, we'll have to find out where that is.
Hello.
But yeah, so there's like Daryl says, the community page is a great area for you to get involved, and you can win some prizes along the way. So we've got a £50 voucher for everyone that uploaded their picture up until the end of February. We're doing the same this month, so if you haven't already, get your pictures up. If they can be a more recent one, it's not going to help you, but it's nice to see more recent captures. For the first month, it's fine. Like, you know, you have to start somewhere. So, so I'm not going to go through and pick out any individual ones. We're going to go
random.
Yeah, we're going to go random. So we'll find the random generator.
He's got all the tech, this kid.
And then we're just going to go on. You press it. Press the little tap to draw button.
Last time you said that, you pressed it.
That's it. So Paul Rutter.
Paul Rutter.
You are the winner of the £50 community
Johnson
Ross community giveaway.
Yeah, should we do a little heads up about the discount scheme? Just
have
a
a
little chat about that.
Through that.
Obviously, when we first started CarpFix, the main thing was to get as much video content out there as possible. But over time, we're looking to basically make the service as beneficial to the members as possible. And by joining forces with Johnson Ross Tackle initially, you know, that's giving our members the opportunity to get 10%. All of our members with their unique discount code can get 10% off at Johnson Ross on over 20,000 products. So that's a nice little saving for anyone, and they're great. They've got a brilliant mail order service. And since the introduction of the Johnson Ross discount scheme, we've slowly starting to add other people to this list. So the first of these is the Think food.
Think it's not a it's a
think,
isn't it?
It's a think. Yeah, I should be perfect for it. being from Essex, shouldn't I? It should be absolutely easy.
Think food.
Think food. So you get 10% off from Think Food with your CarpFix discount scheme. And also, we've just got on board the Handcraft pop-up range. Now, most of you probably have not heard of Handcraft. They're a smaller bake company, but they make some very, very, very nice pop-ups. You know, one of the common problems or difficulties with pop-ups these days is if you're using heavy, like stiff hinge rigs, chod rigs, with big hooks, you know, they're big heavy rigs, and you want to use a small pop-up. Generally, you know, most of the like 12mm pop-ups that you buy in shops will not hold up that sort of presentation. Well, these Handcraft ones definitely do. Very, very good. So if you've not seen them before, check them out. Brilliant pop-ups. We've not got 10% off at Monster Particles, have we?
So Monster Particles, the deal with them, it might change. They'll let us know, and when it does change. But at the moment, basically, if you are a member of CarpFix, you can get 10 kilos of the Monster Mix. So the Monster Mix is just, as it kind of says, is a mix of all their of the particles, basically.
So if you do what, sorry?
So if you make an order of any amount, they will
automatically get 10 kilos.
We won't say the code on here now because obviously it'll go out on the podcast and things. But if you make any order on the Monster Particles website,
apply your code.
Yeah, put the code on and you'll get 10 kilos sent with your order for nothing.
That's good.
So you could order 5 kilos
and get 10 kilos for free. It's a pretty good deal. Sounds pretty good to me.
But it might change.
Yeah.
If too many of you order.
if you wipe them out.
Yeah, they might not be too happy about it.
Yeah.
Shall we get a question?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Let's have a look. So Daniel Howe has asked, looking for a bit of advice on how to tackle a new club lake I'm joining next month. My first time moving up from day tickets and wondering how to start my year off properly.
So it's a bit of advice from fishing club lakes.
He's going to start fishing a new club lake. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a lake's a lake to start with, but the beauty of a club lake is that you're going to. I'm guessing is that you're going to start to fish the same venue more regularly, and that's the real key. You know, that's how I feel that anglers really develop their skills, because if you can learn about the fish's movements around the lakes in certain conditions, then you'll be, that's watercraft, and watercraft is the number one skill that you need in fishing. Technically, you're going to be needing to fish exactly the same as you do on a day ticket lake. Technically, finding spots, finding the fish, blah 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 blah. But my advice would be to start collating information in your notes section on your telephone. So where you see certain fish in certain conditions, obviously spots. If you find a spot that you caught fish off, or you see a fish in an area, write it down in the notes in your phone. Like, let's just say swim 10 at the pylon, 14 wraps, whatever, however you're going to take these notes down. But building like a little database of information on your telephone over the course of a few sessions will put you in good stead. A lot of the time when I fish in the winter, when the lakes are really quiet, I quite often I wander into the next swim from my rods, or I'll have a little wander around with my leading rod, not where I'm fishing, and just have a bit of plumb, and I'll take notes of where the clear spots are and stuff like that. So yeah, try to be frequent. Treat your fishing like you're building on something. So each time you go, try and take a little bit of information, use it to build from one session to the next, and that is the key to campaign and target carp fishing.
Cool. Curtis, I'm giving Daniel Howe some stickers.
That's good question.
Curtis Bowen or Bowen has asked, evening lads, should the starting depth of zigs be adjusted now the weather is warming up? So if you were going out, what is it now? Towards the end of March, isn't it? So
yeah.
What would you kind of go to?
Obviously every lake's different, but I don't know how deep the lakes are you're fishing, but doesn't matter how deep they are, I would tend, not, it's not 100% true this, but definitely in the top 8 feet. And for example, if you were fishing somewhere like St John's, it's only 12 foot deep, you're going to be much higher up than that. You're going to be, I would suggest you're going to be in the top third. The top third is the best third to be in, or definitely over halfway. And my favourite depth for zigs in April, which I feel April's the best time, so we're coming into April. April's my favourite month for zigs. I would say that on a deep lake, 4 to 5 foot down is a very, very good depth. And if it's a little bit shallower than 4 to 3 foot down, I've never really done particularly well any higher than 3 foot. I'm not saying they don't work higher than that, because they certainly do, but I would say that 3 to 6 foot band is lethal. And the shallower the lake, the higher that tends to be, and the deeper the lake, the lower that might be. But yeah, you won't go wrong for 3 to 5 foot. 3 to 5 foot down is a brilliant starting place to be messing around with in April.
Yeah, cool. Daniel White, what's the ultimate setup for fishing from a boat, which we've done very recently? Large gravel lake is 350 acres in the UK. It's between 4 and 15 foot of water, fishing up to 200 yards. The fish go to £60.
Any tickets, lads?
Any tickets?
Any
so he's
tickets?
asking what line,
I know where he's at.
Line, leads, rigs and bait. Talk to me. Tight lines.
Right, no ticket.
Can I have a shout out to my friend Leo Tared? Apologies.
Leo Terred, shout out, big ups. I think you're talking about a lake very close to a main road, and the big fish in there is called the Machine, I believe. From what I've heard, it's relatively low stock. Any 300 acre lake is going to be pretty serious, and I've got very, very limited fish. In fact, I've never fished a lake in the UK that big. Bottom line, I just haven't. There just aren't many lakes like that in the UK. And if there is only 40 or 50 or 50 or 60 carp in there, which I've loosely heard, I don't know. This is not tight information. This is just what I've heard on the grapevine. Then the location is going to be absolutely everything. Quite often on those big lakes, not always, but quite often, that they will use the wind. You know, the winds. That's one of the first things you've got to work out is whether the fish tend to follow the wind at different times of year. Because if you can work that out, whether they are or they're not, you can use that to your advantage. Because a 350 acre lake, you can't see them boshing from every position. So sometimes you're going to have to put yourself in a position where you can see a lot of the lake, and if you haven't seen anything within 24 hours, you're going to need to move and recalibrate where you're looking. But yeah, it's all about location. Those sorts of reservoirs, you got to. They'll have areas that they favour. They'll have routes that they like to take, and you might get lucky just turning up a few times randomly on them. But yeah, you got to get on them all the time. Keep looking. What would be my advice? Is that the question?
Well, he did go into a little bit more. Let me just go back.
Sorry, I just got a bit excited.
No.
He's talking.
I'm not. I shouldn't be amazed,
Yeah.
but I mean, you obviously know what lake it is.
Well, no, I think I do.
Yeah. So he's so you can picture it a bit more clearly than what say I could or someone else that doesn't really.
Yeah. But the question,
so he's asking more specifically as well about line, leads, rigs, and bait. Don't give him two. Like you might go and fish here,
I can't get a ticket.
but no, give him. Yeah, if you were gonna, line, leads, rigs, and bait.
Well,
so,
yes, I think it's a big sailing lake, and there'll be a lot of probably be a lot of weeds, buoys, that sort of stuff in the lake. So you've got to fish strong. If you're allowed braid, then you'd be using braid unless you've got cast miles. But yeah, I'd be fishing real strong on a lake like that. Leads probably heavy unless I was on in an opportunist situation where they're jumping close in, then I might flick a light lead out. But in the main, you're gonna have big winds, undertow, drifting weed beds, drifting weed, all sorts of stuff like that. So big leads to hold bottom, big leads to cast straight in the wind, and baits. Same.
Guess it depends what time of year as well.
Yeah, single pop-ups, like big pit carp like that will tend to be quite susceptible to a bright one early on. You know, they always are. Well, not always, but a lot of lakes are. And the bigger the lake, generally the more less fearful of everything the carp are. They tend to just come into areas and snaffle what's there. You know, it's not. On small, intimate lakes, they're more timid. They're scared of the angling pressure. On big, wild, open pits, they just tend to be a bit more heavy-handed and just not so nervous.
So we just got back from Lake Oriana,
yes,
which is a little bit bigger than this place.
Yeah,
it's 12,000 acres. But
we went somewhere bigger.
My point is, there you were fishing quite tight. You weren't putting your bait in a big area. You weren't putting a lot of bait out.
No.
So on the lake that he's fishing, would you like certain times of year maybe would you start to spread the bait out, or would you still be fishing it really tight like this table kind of size?
Most of the time, I fish as tight as I can. You know, because I think when you spread the baiting, the theory behind spread baiting is to intercept more fish and to keep them grazing over a large area for longer periods, and maybe to have more fish in the swim feeding at one time. But I believe, for the most part, not all the time, but for the most part, you're decreasing the chance of the fish finding the rig, and thus bite times, feeding spells can be short. So I feel that by concentrating the feed tightly in pretty much every situation is more important. You know, if they want to eat it, they can play Russian roulette. That's sort of my mindset with it. So yeah, I'm not saying spread baiting doesn't work, but I would, yeah, on a big lake like that, the most important thing is are the fish in your swim, and are you on a spot that they're likely to drop down onto? Is it a good spot? Is it somewhere that's going to see traffic? Can you get good presentation? Is it at the right depth? If all of those things are correct and the fish turn up, you're going to have them.
Good luck.
Good luck. Get me a ticket.
Yeah, good luck, Daniel. Let us know how you get on.
Yeah.
Hopefully he catches a few. This will be available probably later on tonight if you want to rewatch all of that. Oliver has asked, do you use sonar at all? And if you do, have you got any tips or pointers on how to use it effectively?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on sonar. Obviously, I've got an echo sounder on for my inflatable boat, which I use on all the big lakes, and I've got an echo sounder on my bait boat as well. They're both echo sounders are Ray Marine, and they've got the I think they call it down vision chirp. I don't really use it for fish finding because they're not really effective for that, especially in the down vision. But they're very good for seeing if there's weed on the bottom, showing up snags, showing up stuff like that. With regards to seeing fish on them, firstly, at Burners at the back end of the trip, when I was like a lot of the time, I was sending the bait boat out without the echo turned on to save the battery. But in hindsight, we definitely saw fish on the echo sounder when we went out a bit further, and it definitely showed like it looked like a little cloud on the bottom. But you knew I thought it was a fish because it showed as not part of the bottom. There was like a little tiny bit of separation.
Almost had the shape of a fish as well.
Yeah, almost had the shape of a fish.
And like look like not well, just head down a little bit. Just on a slight angle.
Yeah, and also I found that the echo works better when you're not driving it. So if you let it drift, if you get to a spot and you're trying to work it out, let the boat sit still. The echo works. It's doing its magic when the boat's still, the engine's not revving. And yeah, just taking your time with it. But yeah, the chirp down vision is pretty good. At Wazing, the spot that I ended up catching Fang and the Oxley's common from, it showed very, very clearly on the echo sounder for me. As in, there was a underwater stick that you couldn't see, and I drove towards this little black hole in a bush. Drove towards that. The little stick came onto the screen, and I would just pull the boat back from this stick, and it's just short of this stick. There was no fluff, on the bottom of. The line was hard, solid yellow, not fluffy looking, and that was that's what you're trying to read. If you're looking for hard spots, you're looking for hard, crisper line with less fluffy looking, and that generally indicates hard bottom, and that is generally what I'm looking for.
Cool. Leaders. Eamon has asked, do you always use one? If so, when and why and what material? A leader?
Depending on the situation, I tend quite often fish with lead core leaders. Was a pretty normal thing for me to do because they're tough. When you're fishing helicopter rigs, the swivel is running up and down that leader, and obviously it's nice to have a nice strong material there to protect it and just to have a strong end tackle system on. For shock leaders, quite rare for me to use a shock leader. I tend to use the tapered line when I want to cast far with a thin mono with a thick mono leader. So I tend to use a tapered line as opposed to a shock leader that way round. And obviously I use a shock leader on my spod and marker rod, but a very rare. If say I'm using a braided main line. Sometimes I'll fish with a 5 or 4 foot fluorocarbon leader just to have something invisible on the end and also to protect the fish's flanks. But at the same time, a lot of the time I'll fish a lead core leader on the end of a braided line. So yeah, I don't really fish snag leaders if that's what you mean.
Cool. David Oliver, Daryl, what kind of venue do you enjoy fishing the most? Small UK lakes, rivers or canals, big overseas reservoirs, etc.?
I do like a bit of variety. I would say I'm most comfortable fishing UK lakes. If it's an irrigation lake or a gravel pit, I've spent most of my adult life fishing gravel pits and irrigation lakes from 1 acre to 100. So when you're talking, obviously that's quite a broad spectrum, but I would say that's my bread and butter. I do like a slightly bigger lake. I like lakes sort of bigger than 10 acres or more. 10 to 100 acres in size, with as few anglers as possible. Because that's just the most difficult thing. In the UK, all lakes are very busy.
You always say it.
Yeah,
The
yes.
biggest problem.
Biggest problem is the competition.
Yeah.
You know, it's we all there's so much information out there. We know what to do, or we've got a rough idea of what to do at very least. And the biggest problem is getting on the fish. And if you get it wrong on one night, you don't see where the fish are, and you have the option to move on to the fish. You always have that chance to correct something. But if there's someone in the swim where you need to be, you can't change anything.
I think what shocked you, going back to Lake Oriana as
Yeah.
well, which you just got back from, 12,000 acres.
Yeah.
You would think you're not going to see anybody, which it couldn't be further from the truth. Just explain what it was like.
So Lake Oriana, huge, massive, incredible environment, totally different to any sort of lake that I've fished big lakes before, but never fished anywhere where it's like you have that jagged rock and stone coming out the ground, and very mountainous sort of scenery. Really, really beautiful. But I had in my mind, I didn't think carp fishing was big in Spain. I don't know why I thought this. I literally thought, I sort of envisaged that carp fishing is like spreading through Europe, and the further away from the UK that you are, the less anglers there are. That's sort of how I imagined it. And I thought, it takes ages to get to Spain. There's going to be no one there. But couldn't have been further from the truth. I must have seen it like one day. We went round on this speedboat. It must have been 100 bivvies around it, but it is 12,000 acres.
Up like that, up the is it? I don't know what it would be. Up where the lake starts.
Yes.
It was quite narrow there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was almost zigzagging with anglers.
Yeah, it was almost like Bivvy City. It's the busiest big lake I'd ever seen. But I can understand why. Orellana has an immense amount of carp in it. Most of the big lakes that I fished in previously are quite low stock, quite difficult. So the chances of blanking are quite high, and I feel that people want to catch, and the thing is, they want people want a good chance of catching. I think Oriana for a big lake offers that. I think there's the head of carp in there. You don't have to be. If someone, that's what I just said about someone being in the way.
Yeah.
There's so much scope on a lake that big. If someone's there, you can go here.
Yeah.
It's not all about one swim. But yeah, it was eye opening to see how busy it was, and we did catch a big one.
We did catch a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be out a couple of months, hopefully. I'm not too sure. Let's crack on. I've got lots of questions. Peter Walton, evening lads. This time of year, would you fish in the weed or in open water?
All depending on where I see the fish. If I see the fish around the weed, then I'll be fishing in and around the weed. If I see them in open water, I'll be fishing there unless it's ridiculously deep. One thing to bear in mind at this time of year is that the water is warming up. Generally, the fish will be getting caught from the shallower water. But if your lake's 10 foot deep all over, that's sort of almost irrelevant. But at the same time, if it's like 50 foot all over through the middle, then you can pretty much right off the middle. The fish might be jumping there, but they won't be touching bottom there. Well, unlikely that they will be. It's dependent. It's dependent.
Dale has asked, I'm having trouble with bird life eating my pre-baited spots. Is there any way you know how to combat this?
If you're baiting with boilies, then not really. They're going to go. You can obviously put more out. And bird life eating the bait is attractive to the carp. If there's enough bait out there for the birds and the carp, that's good. You should be if you're thinking about how much bait you're putting out, and the birds are getting out. If they're still diving on it when you get back to the lake, then that it's still out there. There's still remnants of it out there. But there's not really. If you're trying to stop them getting it, then obviously you can crumb the bait down. Brilliant way. Crumbing it down is going to really make it last longer and more bird proof. But yeah, there's not a lot you can do.
So tomorrow we've got a film coming out with Tom Maker, and in that film, he actually mentions whilst he was playing one of the fish, the lake's called the Mere, and very picturesque. Quite a lot of birds on there. So going back to this question, he actually said in the film, he thinks the birds, when they dive down, they're almost instigating the carp into feeding, because when they started diving down, the birds, he was getting bites.
Yeah, but it's causing a competitive
Like
feeding situation.
And we'd take the drone up. It was really murky, so you couldn't see the fish, but you could see clouds.
Yeah.
But you didn't know if the clouds were from the birds or the fish.
Yeah.
But that cloud, that's disturbance,
that's a
they're
trigger.
bringing them in. So maybe don't be too.
One thing you could do is fish with a rig that will reset.
And he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, if you're fishing with a rig that resets, then you can leave it in position. I'm not very comfortable, especially if the bobbin drops right back, drops off the spot. But if you're just getting a few, like, I wouldn't worry about it, if it'll probably still be good.
Yeah, he was fishing a very silty bottom, so there was no like gravel for the.
His lead's probably stuck in the bottom.
And he's using like a probably 12-inch.
Yeah,
probably a bit longer. It was quite long.
Foot long.
It was a long rig.
Subway.
So it is sitting on top of the sill, and like you say, if a bird comes and picks it up, it's just going to go back down.
Yeah.
Let's give. I'm just trying to find the question. Dale, send me an email because I can't see your surname on here. So you'll have to send me your surname and I'll get you some stickers. Fishing a weedy lake, another weedy lake one. I know clear spots are a go-to, but how would you fish in the weed? So maybe going on from that, if you were going to fish in the weed, how would you fish in the weed?
Okay, there's different types of weed and different ways to fish over different types of weed. Blanket style weed is one of the best fishing chod rigs and solid bags. Now, blanket weed is like a duvet that never really rises very high off the bottom. A lot of people just write off areas because they're reeling weed on the hook and stuff, but it's fairly easy to present on top of weed like that with, like I say, chod rigs, stiff hinge rigs with B pushed up the lead core, and with solid bags. If you can get a good drop on a solid bag but you're winding in a bit of patchy weed, you can pretty much be rest assured that that's going to be fishing. Different other types of weed, though, for example, is like you can have like real grassy weed, like especially early spring coming up in April, and that grassy weed is, again, you can fish pretty well through that with a solid bag because it crashes down to the bottom and the fish can get to it. But when you're talking about Canadian pondweed, for example, if it's low lying and dying, then again, you can fish with the bags and the stiff hinge and the shods. But I've fished lakes where Canadian pondweed is like growing in 10 feet of water, and if you crash a solid bag through that, it'll probably never be found again. That food it's buried. Your lead is crashing down through the weed, and the fish it can, in some circumstances, be very, very dense, and the fish can't get to it. So it's quite a broad question that.
Jonathan's asked, do you have a favourite hook pattern?
Well, do you watch CarpFix, mate?
He might have just joined.
Yeah, he might. He might have just joined. To be fair, excuse me. I tend to use wide gapes for pretty much everything. Have done since 2003, 2004. I find a beaked point, wide gape, medium shanked hooked, the best for hook to land ratio. You never know when you're going to hook the biggest fish in the lake. You want to land as many if that situation arises, so that you have the best possible chance of landing that fish. So I tend to stick to wide gates. Like different sizes, I use them from 8s to 4s. Don't tend to use the 10s and the 2s, but 6s and 4s mostly.
Cool. Harley has asked, what's your best tip for a 2-acre small lake that doesn't get fished?
Ooh. Perfect. I like.
You like the intimate?
Yeah, I like intimate, and also like it doesn't get fished.
Yeah.
Be very easy to walk it. I would be like looking for spots in the edge, looking for natural holding areas. A lake like that, a 2-acre lake, those carp will know every inch of it. It's their home, it's where they live. So look for natural carp houses, as I call them, snaggy overhanging trees,
There will be somewhere they hang
Yeah,
out.
there's somewhere they like to hang out. They might have 3 or 4 areas in that 2 acres, like in different conditions where they like to be. And I would look to bait loads of little margin areas. See if you can, bait them up at this time of year. The fish start coming in close. You can see them you can see in the edge when the fish start working them. They start to go pale. A few stones start to get a bit polished on the bottom. So I would just say, look for the carp houses, bait round the edges, and it really shouldn't take long to find them.
Cool. Steve's asked, any tips on bait boats when using autopilot systems on the RT4 in particular?
I've only ever put one rod out ever on the autopilot. I can't give advice on it because I can't because I'm not. I don't.
Mozza's got one, I think, as well. So it might be best asking him.
It worked. I've tested it, as in I've not when I'm fishing, but I went to the lake like during a spawning period without rods, just with the bait boat, and I set a pin like a GPS point to the boards where I was standing, drove it to the other end of the lake, and then pressed it to come back to me because I wanted to see how accurate. Cause I literally pressed it when the boat was against the boards, and then I wanted to see when the hopper would release. When it thought it reached it, and I found that the hopper door released when it got to 1 meter, not exactly to the point, because basically when it gets to 1 meter, it thinks it's there.
Yeah,
So I found
GPS is usually with the drones. It's anywhere up to 3 meters.
Yeah,
the satellites.
Yeah,
so it doesn't lock in.
But it was. I found it pretty darn accurate. I found it was like every time it would get to the last meter from the boards, and then the hopper door would clack open. So it's pretty good. But you don't have to set it to use the hopper door release. You can send it to go to the spot and then just stop. And by the time that momentum, you'd probably be more accurate like that. To drop it yourself.
Yeah, and the one that Tom had on the film that's out tomorrow, he liked to do it manually on the way out, so he knew like how much line was out there. There wasn't too much of a bow in the line, so he liked to do it like that.
But set it to come home.
On the way back, he just pressed a button. It wasn't an RT4; it was a different boat.
Okay.
But he just pressed a button and it came back.
Yeah.
So he could
So he could concentrate on the rod.
Yeah, do what he needs to do. Yeah.
Which is a good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the good features of them, I think. Let's have a look. Jamie Horn, what's your thoughts on really short zigs, say a foot, and on the flip side, fishing zigs on the surface, fishing at range 130 and mixers is a no-go, but seen on the surface all day?
So really short zigs was the first part of the question. I've never done very well on them, but I've not really fished them. My sort of feeling is if they're close enough to the bottom, then I want to get them to eat my bait. But I know Dovey and Ali once caught loads of fish at the Rise fishing with really short zigs. I've just not really used them. I've a handful of occasions I've put them out and not done very well. So they're not something that they're not my go-to. They're definitely not. They're not something that I cast out very often at all. What was the next part of the question?
So the other part of the question's on the flip side, fishing zigs on the surface.
The only times that I fish zigs on the surface is when I'm feeding mixers. That is, I'll be quite often if the wind's off my back, and I fish runs waters where let's say the rods are out there at 110, 120, then I'll be spomming at 80 and letting the mixers drift out continuously, just keeping a steady stream of them going over the rod. I've only done that a handful of times as well at layer pits. Fishing. I have fished single hook bait zigs on the surface at Farlows, fishing exactly the right depth, like 7 foot in 7 foot, in a carp match with Joe Morgan years ago, and caught a few doing that. But again, it's not something I do too frequently.
Yeah. So Lee Stacey has asked, on the recent trip to Berners Hall, you used your Google Earth to measure distance to spots.
Yes.
So could you not have saved the coordinates on your bait boat and then just sent it back to the spot from the new swim? And I guess what you've just been saying,
I could have pinned it.
I could have, but it's not like 1,000,000% accurate.
Yeah, no, it would have probably
taken you very close.
Yeah, it would have been more. Thing is, what happened though? So, for example, is that I was taking the bait boat out to the middle, and when I dropped on the first drop, I marked my line with elastic, just in case I caught, right? So I caught 5 fish, sending it out to the same clip. And it turned out, I think I wound in the evening, went to sleep, got blown out the ground, and then I checked my wrap sticks just to see how far out this clip was. And it was at that moment that I realised I was 38 wraps out. And at this point, there's like 3-foot waves busting across burners, and I wasn't about to send the bait boat out to drop to get a pin for that position. So that's why I used the Google Earth to triangulate. But I've got a top tip for a lot of people who will watch this. I find Google Earth, the distance pinner on it, when you're pinning the distance, is out by 10%, right? I use it in meters and convert it back to yards because I think it's out. I think it's 10% out.
Well, you use it a lot. So
when I've cast to islands, when I've tried to cast to islands, if you put it out there what it says, if it says it's 120 yards and you cast 120 yards, you're up the tree. You're up the tree from my experience. But if you take 10%, if you put it in meters, and then you put your rod out in yards, the same. So if it says it's 110 meters and you cast 110 yards, I find that bloody accurate.
More accurate.
Yeah, I find that really accurate.
Yeah. All right, cool. Vincent, fishing a small private lake right now, and there's 2 30s amongst 30 fish. I keep 2 30s amongst 30. So there's only 30 fish in there, I think.
Yeah.
Keep recapturing. Any tips for getting through to one of the 30s and stop recapturing the low 20s?
If it's got a relatively low stock like that, the best thing you can do is just keep catching. Don't get too caught up in the fact that you're catching repeat capture, because that is likely. It is likely, but it is a low enough stock that you will get through to the bigger one eventually. But you can. Depends what these 30s, that you can have 30s in lakes like that are the typical big fish greedy ones, that if you fish with big ugly rigs, what I mean by that is you fish with like hinge rigs, chod rigs, big at 20mm bottom bait rigs, those cruder boilie rigs tend to be more selective with the bigger fish, but your 230s in your lake could be super wily ones that only ever eat a single tiger nut and have only ever been caught on a zig. So yeah, generally, to select bigger fish, you fish with boilie rigs, pop-ups, fish meal baits. I have a history of throwing up bigger fish, but yeah, there's always exceptions to the rule.
Cool. Matt Jones, that's 5-acre lake full of doubles, but only 3 or 4 special ones. How would you go about singling out? So similar question.
Yeah,
singling out one of the big girls.
Yeah. If you were really adamant that you didn't want to catch as many of the little ones as the big, going back years and years and years, when I fished at Yateley on the Car Park Lake, there was 9 mirrors, 6 commons in there. Everyone wanted to catch the mirrors. I never caught a common, and I only fished with 20mm boilies. So I fished 20mm boilies at the catapult, 20mm boilies on the hook, and I didn't catch a common. And I don't think that's a coincidence, because the guys that were fishing with tiger nuts they did catch the mirrors too, but they caught a different proportion of they caught a lot of commons and I didn't.
Yeah. Should we talk about this weekend and your book? Have you got any of these left in the leather ones? Is it leather
the
ones?
leather ones are pretty much gone. There's lots of these cloth ones. I had 50 cloth made. I haven't really pushed them. I put them out on social the other night. I think I've only done.
Sell it to them.
No.
Sell the dream.
No, so yeah, I've got cloth bound copy, 50 cloth edition. My Big Carp Buzz is available, £100 each. Going to have them on the stall. That's what I want to talk about, really.
Yeah.
We're going. CarpFix is going to the Essex show, so we're doing our first ever. Public.
Well, we're still waiting. It's all a little bit last minute. We're still waiting for the big banner to come. So if you're there and you don't see the big banner, it means it
didn't come. But basically Lee Apps from the Essex Carp Show, he asked me to do a presentation on stage, and on the back of that, I said, could I have a stand to sell my book from? And then we thought, well, if I'm going to go and do that, we might as well go as CarpFix. So that's what we've done. So we're going to have show offers on for new and existing customers. So if you're coming to the Carp Show, come and see us. Even if you are already a member, or if you're not, come and say hi. Obviously, I'll have copies of my book, some of these special edition one. But yeah, come say hi. Whether you're going to sign up, not sign up, already be a member, just come along, say hi. We'd love to see you.
Yeah, so because this will go out on YouTube after, or on the podcast. If you're not a member and you come into the show, then you can sign up on Sunday. So everyone that's a member, so if you're an existing member already, on the Sunday at the end of the show, we're going to do a draw where one of our CarpFix members, is going to win this very cloth bound.
Yes, so yeah, anyone that's a member by the end of
Sunday, by the end of the show,
we're going to give one of these away to one of our CarpFix members.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the show.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to get to
meet. We've got stickers that you can buy as well.
Yeah.
If you want to buy some stickers,
we've got lots of tubs of pop-ups, some special.
Yeah.
Like basically, main line. I've got some prototype pop-ups coming out. Like they're swirly, they're different flavours, different colours. Do you remember when we first? If you've been a CarpFix member from the start, we had these swirly pop-ups as part of our sort of early launch that we gave away to 6 months.
This is my secret stash.
And annual subscribers. But we've basically got some of the newer ones, like I think there's 3 or 4 different flavours in different colours. We've got quite a few tubs that we're going to be offering away to new and existing customers.
Yeah, not for free.
Not for free.
We have to pay for them.
Yeah. But we've also got some bigger deals as well. We've got 4-month deals. We've got one rolling month, 4-month, 6-month, and 12-month deals.
Yeah.
And some of them are pretty tasty, I think. So if you're an existing rolling member and you're thinking you'd like to upgrade to get these prizes, there's going to be lots of options for you.
Yeah, some nice little gifts that you can get.
Yeah.
Let's do a few more questions, and then we'll do the Monster Particles giveaway. So we've got 10 £50 vouchers to give away. So we'll do a few more questions because we've got quite a few, and then we'll do the draw. Let me just find one on here. What's your preferred line, fluoro or mono? That's from Danny Stone.
Fluoro.
Yeah?
90% of the time, fluoro. Contour, £12. It's the best. It's the best.
Do you prefer 18mm or 22mm baits?
18mm.
Yeah, very quick questions.
Yeah.
What's your favourite high-vis bait for the spring?
Ooh, I've got a few. I've got I like those salty squids. They're pretty lethal, and I also like the IBs. They're pretty lethal. And I like those 50-50 pineapples that you've got down there. I've got my eye on them.
These ones, they're nice.
I might have a little pot of them on the way out.
They're the ones for the spinner packs.
They were.
Jamie Williams has asked, I'm getting back on the bank after a few years off, and my 6-year-old daughter wants to join. Do you agree it's gotten hard for youngsters to get into fishing, e.g. age limits on the bank and cost?
Yeah, I think obviously carp fishing in a bivvy is one thing. There's a lot of costs to get kitted out for that style of fishing. But I think at 6 years old, just a bit of basic float fishing to keep people interested in, and you can do that for very, very, very minimal amounts of money. I've got 2 4-year-olds, and I'm planning on not yet. I don't think they're quite ready, but maybe in the summer, bit of float fishing with lunch. Those sort of commercial carp fisheries where there's thousands of carp that are sort of £1 to £10, and if you put out a feeder or some luncheon meat on a hook and the float just starts dancing straight away, I think that's the way to keep the cost down and the fun high.
Yeah. Craig Cameron, the warm conditions of late and high pressure, what would you do regarding tactics?
warm days and high pressure.
Warm conditions of late. So the current, obviously, it's getting up to 17, I think 18 degrees.
Mate, we're being
yesterday.
spoiled, you know. I'm busy this week, obviously, with this show and whatnot. But the weather is prime. Everyone seems to get excited about low pressure and big winds, but in the spring, there's nothing more powerful when the sun comes out. You know, the fish are cold-blooded. They want to warm up, and when the sun hits the water hard, those fish, they react to it. You know, it's in the spring. The sun is good, so I would be exploring all of the margins, all of the likely carp nests, overhanging trees, old lily beds, reed beds, anywhere where it's getting the sun. I wouldn't be afraid to fish shallow. So yeah, what I might not be doing it'd be fishing. I'm certainly unlikely to be fishing on the bottom in 20 foot of water or something like that. So yeah, looking for the likely areas where the carp can come shallow, get the sun on the back. This is prime. We're being spoiled. You know, it was 18 degrees when I drove round to here earlier to drop Scott's tackle off post the Spain trip, and I had 18 degrees on the van on the way home, which in March is serious. You know, those carp will be moving, they will be eating, and I'm clucking to get out there. Clucking.
Won't be long, mate. We in Spain, we were hoping for like that kind of weather.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been any different.
No,
really.
well, you'd look at my face and think that I've been sunbathing for 2 weeks, but
I got back and they were like, "You're not very tanned."
yeah,
We didn't see sun for 4 days.
No,
because of that sandstorm.
We had the sandstorm. We had quite a bit of rain. And we didn't really see 20 degrees, did we?
No.
So like
18.
We've had 18 here. A lot of the time in Spain, we had, before Scotty came out and I was with Cordo, it was frosty. You know, quite frosty. Quite a few nights in a row. We had a lot of days of 15s, and 15 degrees on a small little lake in the UK is good, but 15 degrees on those big, wild, deep public lakes, not quite enough for it to be at its best.
Yeah.
You want 20s.
Yeah. Matthew Farmer has asked, hope you're both well. I noticed that Corda has used your picture that's behind you for the long chuck mono. Not behind you here. You know, for the long chuck mono.
Yeah.
The casting one, I think.
Yeah.
Have you used this yet? And would this be okay for all round use or just for casting?
I think of. Did you say long chuck tapered or just long chuck?
He just put long chucks.
Yeah, I've not used the long chuck just as normal line. But so for example, to compare it to the other lines, to tell you what's different about it and why you would buy it, it is definitely got reduced stretch compared to the likes of Subline. The tapered version that I've used in 0.33, I don't think it casts quite as far as the Subline, but on the plus side, it is by far less stretchy, much better for feeling the lead down. Yeah, it's the difference in stretch from Subline to that is stark. It's a vast difference. The only slight negative of it is it's quite light. It doesn't sink particularly well, and I've noticed that when you're trying to break it through the surface film after casting out, it takes quite a long time to cut through the surface. So it's obviously quite a light line, but yeah, if you're looking for a line that casts well but doesn't stretch too much, brilliant for feeling the lead down, then yeah, I think it's a bit easier to compress the rod, especially with the tapered versions. You know, when you've got a real stretchy line on the end, a lot of your force is sort of lost into the stretch. Whereas, yeah, I was using that tapered long chuck at Prune. I was using it there. That was the first time I'd really got to grips with it. Yeah. And yeah, I do like it, I think. But like I say, I use tapered line as a special occasion line. If I'm fishing over 30 reps, I don't tend to use it if I'm fishing under 30 reps, and I've not used it as a non-tapered line yet.
Cool. Jonathan Jenkins, when fishing a lake where the fish don't really give themselves up, where would you then start?
Yeah, this is a question we get all the time. What do you do if you don't see anything? The first thing to do is to look for the obvious features, you know, natural holding areas, snags, overhanging trees, reed beds, lily beds, the real obvious things. Secondary to that, where the wind's blowing. Do you think they're on the wind? Is it a warm wind? What time of year it is? Excuse me. Looking for obvious sun traps, because carp love the sun. But failing all of that, if there's nothing obvious, nothing screaming out to you that it's likely to hold carp, then pick a room with a view. Jim, I think it's quite nice, especially when it's cold, if it's a cold wind blowing, pick a room with a view on the back of the wind, because in that situation you're more likely to look and you can see better. And don't be afraid to set up only to have to pack down and move. So when I don't know where they are, quite often I'll fish half-cocked, and by that I mean I won't really set my stall out properly. I'll just flick them out, minimal amount of bait, and prepared to react and move when I see something.
Cool. We'll do one more, and then we'll do the draw. So we've got, it's a simple question, but full of variables, from Paul Robson. Gravel or silt? So many have written about the subject and go with the silt just off the gravel, but you go solid on sand gravel. Why?
I'm the So Solid crew.
Yeah.
No.
You are.
I am the So Solid crew. But the most fashionable, the most commonly spoken about bit from people in the industry is that you don't want to be in the centre of a spot, because the fish will be more wary because it's too obvious, right? Now that, for me, only applies if the spot has been absolutely nuked. If it's a spot that everyone fishes in that swim, it's been spawned to death by people with varying angling abilities, different casting styles, and then the bait gets peppered around a spot. It then becomes the size of this studio, and then it looks like pure danger to the fish. And in that situation, fishing on the side of the spot they might make the fish feel a little bit better. But if you're fishing on tiny clear spots, tiny, like when I say tiny, I mean bin lids, or slightly bigger, then smack down, when you get a smack down proper mega drop, you're on it. You've hit that. If you're off the side of it, you might be in weed, or your rig might be propped up in silt. I've said it before. Special drops do bites me time and time again. I've had situations where softer drop on certain spots has been better, but for me, if you're not fishing on these massive overly fished spots, then on the hard spots, for me, is better.
Cool. So I've been, as we've been going, because you've not given me any names for stickers.
Oh, sorry.
I've just been doing it myself.
Perfect. Scott's been giving away stickers.
I'll go through the list of stickers.
I'm concentrating on what I'm saying.
People, yeah, it's fine. For people who have won stickers, so there's Daniel Howe, Daniel White, Dale, haven't got your surname, so send me your full details if you can. Vincent, I'll try and find you. Probably, same again with Dale, probably haven't got too many Dales or Vincent, so I might be able to find you.
Yeah.
Jamie Williams, Craig Cameron, Matthew Farmer and Paul Robson will send you some stickers. The voucher, which we did for the £50 Johnson Ross Tackle Community giveaway, was Paul Rutter. So we'll get in touch with you, and we're going to do
the draw.
A draw for...
How many is it?
Oh, this is not working.
Oh, no.
Oh, 1 second. You just ramble on about something.
Well, let's just talk a little bit more about this. I'll tell them about the old big one at Orellana.
Yes. Why not?
So we went to Orellana, fished in this bay that's known as the Big Fish Bay to start with. I know the Ridge Monkey boys have filmed there. The guys from Monster Carp have filmed there. We've done 2 nights in the Big Carp Bay. Didn't catch anything. And there was a lot of a lot of information coming back to us that the fish were getting caught at the narrow end of the lake, the shallower end of the lake, around some huge weed beds, which is an area they quite often gather pre-spawning. The fish just gather there because that's where they're going to spawn. So we moved up there. It's probably 400 yards across. Went out the Echo Sounder, spent ages finding spots, looking for spots. Changed my mind about 100 times. Eventually settled on 3 spots. at ranges between 200 and 400 yards out. Maybe 150 and 400, 350 yards out. So, 150 to 350 yards out. Quite far apart rods, fishing in 3 to 9 feet. Not really near the big weed beds. Couldn't find clear spots near the big weed beds where the fish were holding, but more out into the open water around sort of sparse weed. Few handfuls of tigers around each rod. As soon as it got dark, there was just fish jumping everywhere. So we'd blanked 2 nights, not really heard or seen anything. And then on this third night, after the big move, just fish. It's gone dark and fish are just hoofing out everywhere, man. It was, after blanking as many nights as I had, I've just been on a 10-day cord shoot, blanked, and then blanked 2 nights. So I'm like 12 nights without a bite. And I'm listening to these fish jumping out all around. And I was thinking, why haven't I caught anything? 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 And I'm thinking, I need to move. I need to get over the other side. And because of the way the clocks are, I remember I was thinking this around 5 a.m. So at 5 a.m. you've had hours of dark and you're thinking you should have caught. And at 6 o'clock it's absolutely thundered off the middle rod. All hands on deck. It was raining. It was absolutely hammering. It was hammering down. I remember we got out, picked the rod up, took a load of line, got weeded up, pulled it out of a weed, took a load of line, and it kept getting weeded up. I knew that I wasn't gonna get it in from the bank, so I put the rod on the floor, and they're like, the camera guy's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm getting dressed for this." So like, on with the waders, on with the waterproof coat, on with the life jacket, and while all this is going on, the rod on the floor is going. So me and Scott go out in the boat. Ashley stays on the bank, pinging out of a few weed beds. It's the fish is sort of zigzagged through the weed, through quite loose weed, and then. It's sort of, we're now fighting it in the torchlight and the camera light, and we're starting to see it, and I'm like, that's a 40-pounder. That's what we came for. As it gets a bit closer to the net, I was like, that's a good 40. It's probably a mid-40, a 20-kilo fish. And it was, like I say, it was raining, and it was quite windy out there. And as it come up at the last minute, I'm about to net, I've obviously put the engine into reverse, drove towards it, and then at the last minute cut the engine so that it doesn't get caught around the landing net. Pulled it into the net. At this point, I'm still thinking it's a mid-40. Brought it round to the side of the boat, broke the net down, and tried to. I said, Scott, I'm going to bring it inside the boat because the boat's got an air deck, so it's like a huge inflatable unhooking mat, but it's a boat. So I've tried to lift this fish over the tube, and at first attempt I couldn't get it in the boat, and I know from previous experience when that happens. It's serious. You can feel all the mesh from the landing net digging into your fingers. And Scott's like, "What's the matter?" I'm like, anyway, it's come on board. It's like, I ain't joking when the fisherman goes, "It was this big."
Yeah.
It was this big.
Yeah,
it was
literally. That's what I said to Chloe. I said, when you give the tail, it was this big. It literally was. And we're not even joking. It was
this big.
This big.
Yeah. Obviously, quite long. Some of those fish in Orellana. But even so, knew it was massive. And Scott said, when we're coming back to the bank, and obviously we've cut the 100 yards out in the wind and rain, and we're sort of driving back to the bank. And Ash, who's quite new to us, I'm not sure if he's ever seen a fish like this before. Scott's like, tell him it's only a small one and just let him see it in the torchlight. So we've pulled up in the boat and said, he's like, any good? Is it a big one? It's like, it's only a small one.
It's a start, mate.
It's a start, mate. And then just like left the torchlight on it, waiting for him to.
He didn't clock, did he?
He does. His eyes were going like, really, he's like.
Eventually.
Yeah, it's so it was a 59-pound common from Lake Orellana in
Yeah,
Spain.
if you're at the show and we get the banner in time, it's blown up to 2.5 meters. It's nearly the length of the fish. The banner's like 2.5 meters wide.
Yeah.
And so we've got the full banner. The width of it is that fish.
Yeah.
With some other stuff on it. So yeah, if you see us at the show, that's the fish that we just talked about. Right, I think
You sorted it.
Yeah, it's on here now. So we're going to do 10 names. So I'll just draw them and I'll just screenshot the names. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
So every person that we announce now has won a £50 voucher for the Monster Particle range. No, it is on the terms. They gave us a little bit of strict terms. It is only on the particle range, so it's not on the on some of the other range of baits that
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
it's on the particle range.
Yeah.
They got £50 voucher
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. Here we go. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck.
Ethan Worrell is the
Ethan
first
Worrell.
name. You keep count how many I'm doing. Matthew Robert Hayes is the second one.
Matthew Robert Hayes, well done.
Luke Horbury.
Luke Horbury.
Nathan Dunn.
Nathan Dunn, well done. No pun.
Scott Arman. Might be Larman, actually.
Scott Larman, well
I
done.
think it's Larman.
That's 5.
Kyle James.
Kyle James, you're number 6, well done.
Danny Huskinson.
Danny Huskinson,
Yeah.
number 7, well done.
Tony Davis.
Tony Davis Patrick,
No.
no,
There might be.
I doubt it.
Aaron Little.
Aaron Little, well done.
How many more?
One more.
One more. Josh Baker.
Josh Baker, well done. 10 winners
Yeah.
for £50 Monster Particles voucher.
Yeah. So we haven't got a draw for a giveaway for this month into next month, but when we do,
We'll let them know.
we'll let you know what it is.
Yeah.
Been busy, haven't we?
Yeah, we've been all over the show. We just spent 3 weeks in Spain. Well, I have.
Yeah. So little reminder on the community page, like we mentioned, if you've missed some of this live, I'm just scrolling back through to the top. But if you post on our community page, which can be found on, it might be easier just do that. It can be found on the app. So this is the main page on the app. You can see there it says live now. This is the video.
Yeah.
Community page is at the bottom there. If you click on there, this is where you can post. So you can simply attach your pictures. I think you can do up to 10 pictures on there. So if you do that every month before the end of the month, we'll do what we did this time and do a draw for a £50 Johnson Ross voucher.
Yeah.
And then in 11 months' time, so February next year, we'll do everyone that's entered, your names are all being recorded. Everyone that's entered will go into a draw for a £100 voucher. So even if you don't win every month, you'll still get a chance at the end.
Yeah.
Just another little thing that we can do.
Lovely job. Lovely.
That's it. So yeah, if you're at the Brentwood show,
It's not Brentwood show, is it?
So,
They keep
yeah,
saying it.
no,
It's the
Essex Carp Show.
Yeah, Essex Carp Show, North Weald. Come and say hello. Come and see
You
our
can
stands.
still get tickets as well because they're e-tickets.
Can you get one? Can you get one
You
on
get-
the door though?
Yeah, but they're £15 each.
And then how much if you get them beforehand?
Cheaper.
They're cheaper to
Yeah.
get beforehand.
So if you know you're going, you get tickets up until the Friday, I think.
Yeah.
Up until tomorrow.
Yeah.
So you can still buy them if you're going. And then if you're there, come say hi. We've got a few bits that we're doing a few little deals on.
Yeah.
So if you're already a member, it doesn't work out too expensive to get on one of the deals.
Yeah.
Come see us and hopefully we'll see you there.
Lovely job. Thank you for joining us, guys. See you next time.
Cool.